Hey, quick preamble before this one. I recorded all of these Let's Do a Things like a year ago. These are like early 2022 videos that I'm just putting out now. So I just want to say right now that this is about the Cinemassacre podcast, which I know doesn't exist anymore. I'm well aware of that. I just kind of thought this was funny. So I still want these to go up, but don't fill the comments with, they don't even do this anymore. I know. This is an old video, but it's still funny, so enjoy it. Also, I guess we should get into it. Welcome all you plus two comedy modifiers back. TV's Noah here, and let's do a thing. Let's do a thing. Let's do a thing. What will Noah do next? Welcome back once again to Let's Do a Thing. This is the show where I do a thing. And sometimes it's more interactive and, we work together as a community and we look at something and I try to tackle something creatively or something like that. But sometimes it's more of a TED Talk, and this is going to fall more in the category of being a monologue because I got some problems I got to talk about here, and I really want to make my stamp here on Twitch as someone to be watched, and I realized one of the best way to do that is to stir up drama. So we're going to stir up some drama, and we're going to talk about Cinemassacre and the Cinemassacre truth. If you don't know what Cinemassacre is the entertainment company on YouTube that creates probably their most popular show is the Angry Video Game Nerd. But they make some other projects. They have Board James. And recently, they started a podcast that they call the Cinemassacre Podcast. It's really, really creative name you got there. And I got some outreach from some fans because, yeah, I have fans. I have them. And some fans reached out to me. 6 different fans reached out to me about this podcast. And when 2/3 of your fan base reaches out to you about something, you take notice. And they said, you need to watch it. It's going to upset you. I was like, all right, I'm in the mood to be upset. So let's watch a bit and see if I get upset. So I have it up right here. This is the Cinemassacre podcast. This is James, the Angry Video Game Nerd. This is Kieran, and this is Justin. Let's just watch a moment of this, shall we? Let's just watch a tiny moment from it.
But first, I guess we'll do another round of what you doing, what you watching, what you drinking, what you playing, any of that stuff. All right, so James, what have you...
That was interesting. Let's just watch that tiny bit again.
Kieran of the group.
Yeah. But first, I guess we'll do another round of what you doing, what you watching, what you drinking, what you playing, any of...
Huh. All right. So they have a whole segment called What You Doing, where they talk about what they're drinking and what they're playing and what they're watching. So I'm not sure if you guys know this, but I actually have a podcast of my own. Yeah, that's right. I have a podcast of my own. I haven't done it in a while, but it was called the Plus Two Comedy Podcast. It's a good name. It's a good name that doesn't deserve any criticism. Anyway, I would like to show you a small clip, just a small clip from my show, the Plus Two Comedy Podcast. So here, enjoy this. Let's take a listen.
So we like to geek out on this show, and we do it with the segment called What You Watching, What You Reading, What You Playing. It's where we talk about what we're watching, what we're reading, what we're playing.
Does that sound familiar to anybody else? Does that sound just a little bit familiar to anyone else?
Help with the nerd. What you doing, what you watching, what you drinking, what you playing, any...
Segment called What You Watching, What You Reading, What You Playing. It's where
That's right. Cinemassacre stole my segment. They stole it. They took my segment from my podcast, the Plus Two Comedy Podcast, What You Watching, What You Reading, What You Playing, and they're doing What You Doing with What You Drinking, What You Watching, What You Playing. I assume they can't read. That's my big takeaway from this, is that they can't read. And you may be sitting there thinking, Noah, you are a small potato streamer. No one cares about you. You're unlovable, and you'll never be popular. And if you're thinking that, take a step back. Easy. We're friends here. But you may be thinking that there is no way that someone like Justin and Kieran and the Angry Video Game Nerd even know who I am. Well, take a look at this.
We're taking up too much goddamn time. Let's just get Noah up here. He's in Plus Two Comedy, or he'll say it. Whatever. Yeah. The least known member.
I got no intro and no one knows who I am. This is great.
Okay, so I will admit no one knows who I am. Nobody really knows who I am. But there it is, evidence, right there, for your face. I was at the roast of the Angry Video Game Nerd that Justin hosted. So of course, he knows who I am. Now you may be thinking, well, that doesn't show that he listens to your podcast. Well, let me take you all the way back to the beginning days of my podcast, way back in 2013. This is episode 3 of my podcast. It's audio only at this time, with my very special guest, Justin Silverman.
We like to geek out on this show, and the way that we talk about our geek stuff, which we start with a little segment that we like to call What You Watching, What You Reading, and What You Playing. And that's when we talk about what we're watching and what we're reading and what we're playing. Nothing to all three, because that's going to really hurt this segment.
What are we even... Well,
we're starting with what you watching. What you watching, Justin?
Technically...
What you watching, Justin? That's from back in 2013, when Justin was a guest on my podcast. And you might be thinking, oh, that's way back in 2013. He probably does tons of podcasts. He probably doesn't even remember doing your podcast, Noah. Nobody likes you and you'll never be memorable. Stop saying that. But here's some more evidence when I had Kieran on the show.
So,
Up
Kieran,
in her.
I know you're a huge fan of this.
Yes.
This podcast.
I am, actually. I've been listening to
So
it.
we like to geek out a bit with a segment we like to call What You Reading, What You Watching, and What You Playing. It's where we talk about what we're reading, and what we're watching, and what we're playing.
Ignore the fact that for some reason I said it out of order, but there is Kieran not only just hearing and being on the show and participating in what you're watching, what you're reading, what you're playing, but admitting that he's a fan of my show. Cinemassacre stole my segment for their podcast. This is undeniable proof, absolute proof, that I have been thought robbed by Cinemassacre. Cinemassacre stole my intellectual property of asking people 3 things that they have been doing and starting with whatcha. I think I've completely proven that I have been usurped of ideas by the Angry Video Game Nerd. And I can't think of a single reason why the Angry Video Game Nerd would steal from me.
And it's just all you do is swear. You swear so much. It's insane. And it's weird because you have pens in your pocket like you were going to write jokes. And you're like, no, it's just curse. I think it's just curse. Like,
Okay, I'll admit that that was a bit mean of me to say to the nerd's face and all. But you know what? I would never steal from the nerd. I would never, rip off. I'll insult him to his face, but I would never, rip him off.
swearing is your native language. Like, do you even understand what I'm saying right now? Because I'm not swearing. Can I get an Angry Video Game Nerd translator up here, please? Thank you. This is my Angry Video Game Nerd translator. He's going to translate.
Okay. That That kind of looks bad. That does kind of look like I'm still. Let's just get off of this. Let's get off of this. Let's get off of it. The point I am trying to make is that I had several fans reach out to me and tell me that Cinemassacre was stealing a segment from my show, the Plus Two Comedy Podcast, which I haven't done in 2 years. But still, it was stolen from me and they're using it in their podcast. And I just wanted to make this video to let you guys know that you don't have to message me anymore because I don't actually care. I think it's fine. I don't think they actually stole it from me. I mean, me and Justin are actually really good friends. I will be at the Too Many Games Expo doing stand-up comedy and wrestling, which is, you know, a convention that he helps run along with like Screenwave and stuff like that. We're all good. So to all the people that were nice enough to reach out to me and bring this to my attention that Cinemassacre was stealing my solid gold idea of what you watch and what you read and what you play in. I hear you and thank you, but I don't think there's anything malicious behind it. Asking someone what they've been watching is probably in, I want to say, 89% of all podcast interviews. So I really don't think there was any malicious intent on the side of Cinemassacre. So why did I make this the thing we were doing this week on Let's Do a Thing? I don't know, clickbait. I thought it'd be good for views and stuff, and if I put like a real catchy topic and act like I'm all mad, and then I'll make a thumbnail where I'm just kind of like, people will care. People will care about that if I'm like, grrr. So that's what we're doing. I just wanted to bring that up and clear the air that everything's cool between me and Cinemassacre. Thank you to those that brought this to my attention. And thank you for joining me for Let's Do a Thing. You can join me live on Fridays on Twitch when I record these, because for some reason I required an audience to make a small video. And also be sure to subscribe right here to Plus Two Comedy for more Let's Do a Thing.